Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Right now, we're discussing Egbetokun's tenure elongation, and we're looking at it, legality versus legitimacy. Legal practitioner and secretary of the Association of Legislative Drafting Advocacy Practitioners, ALDRAP, Tenure Jaja, has challenged the legality of Inspector General of Police Kayode Egbetokun's tenure extension, stating that only an amendment of the 1999 Constitution can validate it. In a letter to the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Lateef Fagbemi SAN, Jaja faulted the AGF's declaration that the extension was lawful. The AGF had earlier stated that Egbetokun's tenure, which began on October 31, 2023, would ordinarily end on September 4, 2024, when he turned 60. However, an amendment to the Police Act allowed him to remain in office for a 4-year term, extending his tenure until October 31, 2027. Jaja argued that since the office of the Inspector General of Police is created by the 1999 Constitution, any tenure extension must be done through the constitutional amendment rather than an act of parliament. He cited the 5th Alteration Act of June 8, 2023, which amended the retirement age for judicial officers, emphasizing that similar alterations should apply to the police leadership. He urged the AGF to reconsider his stance, warning that the ALDRAP would file a lawsuit at the National Industrial Court if necessary to seek legal clarification on the matter. Joining us this morning is Okechukwu Nwanguma. He's the Executive Director of Rule of Law and Accountability Advocacy Center, RULAAC. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity.
All right, so we're talking legality or legitimacy when it comes to this tenure elongation, because fine, there's been an amended Police Act which says, I think, Section 7, subsection 6 says that, you know, if anyone is already in office, they can extend their stay, or they can do the complete 4 years. However, that was never the case, and this was something that was amended that same year. So what's your take when we're talking about legality? In your own opinion, is this legal and is this legitimate? Because Showari, who is a rights activist, had, you know, referred to Egbetokun as an illegal IGP, and of course, is being prosecuted for that. So what's your take on this?
Well, as you know, this particular issue has generated widespread public outcry and debates.
Yes.
And talking about legality and legitimacy, I think the point being made is that a process or its outcome may wear the cloak of legality, but if it does not enjoy public support, if there is no public faith, then it loses legitimacy. And legitimacy is about, you know, credibility, transparency, and public faith, public support. This is not the first amendment that we have seen. And so the fact that this one has generated this level of public debate shows that there is something wrong about it. And I'm speaking to you as one of those who was integral to the advocacy for the review of the Colonial Police Act and the process that led to the making of this Police Act 2020. I know that one of the innovative provisions was providing for a secure tenure for the IGP, which was a tenure of 4 years. And in doing that, what the Police Act, what the makers had in mind was to cure the problem of lack of leadership stability. In other words, to ensure that there is leadership stability for the IGP and to allow him to do long-term visioning and planning, as opposed to in the past when an IGP is appointed, he doesn't know when he'll go. Most IGPs serve no more than 2 years from 1 year. Now, in doing that, what the Act also had in mind was that anybody to be appointed IGP must have a minimum of 4 years left in service. And there are hundreds of police officers who have more than 4 years left in service. So the idea of going to appoint someone who has 1 year or 2 years to go, and then you now go to amend the Police Act is dubious. as you know, the Police Service Commission just on Friday or Thursday issued a directive that all police officers who have attained 60 years or 35 years in service should retire. Why should the IGP be exempted from this? Why tamper with it? Because I call it tampering. Now, an amendment to the Police Act is a critical thing that should not be done with such a haste and without public, input. In one day, in one sitting, the amendment passed through. And by the way, remember, it was the president that sent that bill to amend that particular section to insert.
On the 23rd of July, 2023, which was the same year that he was being appointed in October 31, 2023.
Absolutely. And so in one sitting, the bill unprecedentedly passed first reading, second reading, third reading, without public hearing. And this is Police Act. This is about the amendment to the Act to extend the tenure of the IGP. This is clearly a political, agenda. It is not about public goods. And so it is. So the question of legitimacy is at stake here, not just legality. It may wear the cloak of legality, but it lacks legitimacy, and that is the problem. I think the IGP should simply go and give way to others who are waiting, whose career, progression is being undermined by his continued, stay in office after he has attained 60 years. The statute that governs retirement is the public service rules, and it's public. Even the Police Act made reference to the public service rules, which means that even as it provides for 4-year tenure, it still makes it subject to the public service rules. So this thing is very clear. It's very clear.
All right. So with everything, most times you look at precedents to see if this has happened in history before, and then you can say because it has happened before, we can allow it again. So are there any precedents to this in the Nigerian history? Let's start with that.
Things may happen before and they are wrong. If they happen again, it doesn't make it right. But I'm not aware of any precedents in terms of this is the first time that in my own knowledge, within my own knowledge, that an amendment of such critical nature will be done with such a haste, such a speed, without consultation. I'm not aware of any precedents, and this is a bad. And what this means is that if this is not challenged, it's going to lead to further legislative recklessness that will. They can just wake up tomorrow and make any amendment without concern about public interest and how it affects the interest of the people. Governance is about people, not about a particular individual.
Yeah, so I love the fact that you just talked about even if it has happened before, it doesn't mean that it is right. And we don't want a situation whereby people would now take this instance and say, oh, it has happened in Egbetokun's time, so in 2027, 2010, or 2030, whatever the case might be, we can refer to it and say it has happened before and it can be a normal thing. But if we look at the 1999 Constitution, are there provisions for this? Because as it seems, there was an executive bill that was being passed. The moment it was introduced, it was a done deal. So are there provisions in the 99 Constitution that says, you can just make an act or amend an act and that still has that legitimate factor to it? Especially when it comes to the Police Act.
Yes. The Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria makes provision for the appointment of the Inspector General of Police.
Okay.
But it didn't make provision for tenure, So that was the basis upon which the Police Act 2020 decided to provide for tenure. And recognizing that retirement of public servants is governed by the public service rule, the Police Act was, conscious to also make reference to it in the Act. If you read the Police Act, where it says a person appointed to the office of the Inspector General of Police shall serve for a tenure of 4 years, it said subject to the public service rule. So the new amendment made where they now said will serve until the end of the term as specified in the letter of appointment. That was the new inclusion. That thing contradicts, so it makes the Police Act contradictory. So that is where the problem lies. This cannot, even if this, survives legal scrutiny, it cannot, it cannot enjoy legitimacy because there's no, it erodes public trust in institutions. And by the way, let me also tell you one other thing that is important. There is a lot of discontent within the Nigeria police. Many senior police officers are not happy about what is happening. A lot of them who are in the waiting, who ought to progress, feel shortchanged. They feel shortchanged. And this type of discontent, the implication it can have in internal harmony, internal unity, and even up to public safety and security.
So if this survives now, right, like you've said, how could it affect the trust in government institutions and, for instance, the rule of law? Because it seems like people are just waking up and saying they want to amend an act just because they wanted to favor a select few. And now we don't even know how it's going to, take precedence in other institutions as well, other government institutions. Now, maybe some people can just say, you know what, I want an appointment and I can just do that. So how is it going to affect this? And also, what are the next steps to take? So is there going to be a legal battle? Is there going to be a reversal? Is there going to be, an eventual confirmation? Are we going to see this pull through? Or what is the thing that is going to happen? And how would people just have that trust when it comes to the rule of law in Nigeria?
So I already started by mentioning the effect that this is having within the police as an institution. I'm well aware that there is a high level of discontent. A lot of police officers are not happy about it. But of course, they cannot speak out. And what will happen is that these officers who are not happy are likely going to take revenge against the system. Is going to lead to sabotage. Now, in terms of the fact that this level of public outcry has been generated, tells you the implication for public trust. Already the Nigerian police force is one institution that has been battling with its reputation. This particular action will help to further erode whatever public trust, because the action undermines the rule of law. It doesn't follow the legally established procedure for governance, for legislative action. So what will happen is that I hear some people are gearing up to go to court, and I think that is the right thing to do. And I strongly believe that the courts will reverse this illegitimate action.
All right.
But to save us that trouble, I think that the President should simply ask Egbetokun to go so that a new IGP can be appointed.
All right. Thank you so much for that. It's been a pleasure having you, Okechukwu Nwanguma. Thank you for your thoughts and sharing your valuable insights on this. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Have a wonderful day. All right, so we're speaking with Okechukwu Nwanguma, is the Executive Director of Rule of Law and Accountability Advocacy Center, RULAAC. And we've just been talking about Egbetokun's tenure elongation, and we've been looking at the fact whether it is legitimate or, legal. So I'm sure a lot of people have their own concerns about this, but we'll see how this plays out. Anyways, thank you so much for having the breakfast with me. My name is Rume. Paulson. I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful day and welcome to February once again. Good morning.